Hello, everyone. This is episode number 22 of The Power of Practice. And on today's show, you're going to learn how to stay calm in the center of a storm with my guest, Jay Fiset. Welcome, everyone, to The Power of Practice on Air. I'm your host, Lisa Ingalls. I'm an author, a speaker, and a mindset mastery coach. I am the founder of Inner State Coaching, where I help visionary leaders to create radical change in the world by first creating radical change within themselves. So you can learn more about me and my services by visiting www.innerstatecoaching.com. And while you're there, you can also pick up a free report on my 5-step process or 5-step practice to create radical change. So in my 20 years of working as a coach, it's become very clear to me that creating transformation, creating quantum leaps in our lives, whatever that means, whether it's in your health and your wealth and your happiness, it isn't about doing certain things. Rather, it's about doing things in a certain way. And of course, that requires a little bit of practice. So in this 20-minute show, what I do is I interview guest experts from across the world, from a wide range of fields, from health and personal development to business and everything in between, and I ask them all one question, and that is, what one practice can you share with us that can create a radical breakthrough for us in our lives? And it's through these practices that you, the viewer, you, the listener, will gain the tools that you need in order to turn stumbling blocks into stepping stones. So if you're joining us live today, please do let us know that you're here. You can type any comments that you have into the box below this video, below this hangout. If you have any questions for Jay or myself, also type those comments here. Again, it doesn't matter actually if you're watching live or in replay, because we can still engage with you and continue this discussion. So have you ever met anybody who was able to remain really calm in the midst of all types of trials and tribulations and chaos, and maybe wonder, how the heck do they do that? How are they staying so calm even though life is handing them a platter full of not so good stuff? Well, for most of us, I would say, if you're a human being, our lives are filled with ups and downs, and staying centered isn't always easy to do. Even if it's critical that we do stay centered, the fact of the matter is that most people do go through life feeling and acting as if they're stuck in the center of a storm and can't seem to get out of it. Maybe you know somebody like this. Now, in today's show, my guest is my featured guest, Jay Fiset, and he's going to be talking to us about his 6th pillar of creation, which is, I am the source and cause of my experiences and my results. And he's going to give us a very simple practice that will help us to become aware of how we are continually creating our situations, circumstances, and events, both good and bad. Now, really quickly, if you're not familiar with Jay, if you haven't seen him yet, Jay is the founder of Personal Best Seminars, a leading seminar company that provides workshops promoting self-awareness and personal growth. He's also the founder and creator of the Creators Code, a global community of conscious creators who commit themselves to manifesting lives of meaning, significance, and contribution. So welcome, Jay, once again to our June edition.
Well, thank you first and foremost, and good Lord, it's half a year already since we started doing it.
I know, isn't that crazy?
Congratulations on 22 shows, by the way. You've been moving and shaking.
Yeah, I know, and it's been 22 shows of just the power of practice, not to mention all the other shows I've done with hangouts with visionary leaders and hangout strategies and blah blah and all that. So I've been hopping on the hangouts here.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So, yeah, great to have you here for our June edition, and we're going to be talking about your 6th pillar of creation. So why don't we just hop right into it?
Well, that would be cool. So we are focusing on I am the source and cause of my experiences and results. And, you know, this is a large topic. And
what, 20 minutes isn't enough, Jay?
You know what? I started today. I said just once. I'd love to get it into 20 minutes. Then I started, doing a little preparation. It's like, man, it's not going to happen on this topic.
Yeah, not today.
But I will absolutely, of course, do my best, and I want to, do serve and support. So for those of you watching, please do me a favor, which is this: the depth and the concept that we're about to talk about is actually a master's level of consciousness. So this is one of the shows that I would ask you, you know what? Don't surf, turn off Facebook, put your phone to sleep for 22 minutes.
Can you please?
Exactly. For a couple of minutes to explore and play with this idea of being the source and cause of your experiences and results. And I want to just be super clear about this, is that we as human beings are eminently outward focused. I mean, even the design of our bodies is primarily about us integrating and us interpreting and us attaching meaning to what's going on in our world. Our eyes see outward, our voices speak outward, our skin, we're biologically primarily designed to interpret the external world. So it's not so confusing or even crazy, which little sidebar to this, when you were saying, some people who can just manage whatever's going on with, for many people that's called medication. But that's not what we're talking about today, and I think it's important to draw that distinction. We're not talking medication, be that prescribed or self-prescribed. That's not what we're talking about. So what we're really talking about is this, is mastering as much as possible the internal world. And what that means and what the measure of it would be is that we can not just maintain our state, meaning that we can maintain a state of loving, calm, peace, joy, contribution, whatever the case may be, not just maintain it, but that we are perfectly clear that we are the source of our state, which means that it comes from within us. Another way of saying this is, of course, our life happens through us, not to us. Most of the world is still oriented around to us. And if we really get that that is true, heart, mind, and soul, then we are free to cause whatever experience we choose, regardless of any external circumstance. Now, this all sounds like great words, and I'm sure that most of the people at home watching, oh, yeah, that's absolutely true. Oh, I totally get that. Oh, yes, I meditate, and all fine and dandy. And you know what? That all works tickety-boo until, Lisa and I were talking about this earlier, until your 8-year-old informs you that he's moving out, and he packs his hockey bag with his blanket and his stuffy bear, and he puts on his very best clothes to walk down the street to see if he can move in with his best friend, which... at first, there was a moment of this is come on, like, let's not fool around here. But there was this other space where it's like, you know what, he's going to have to navigate his way, and I literally maintained not just a present state, but I actually maintained a present joyful state and did my very best to secretly try and take pictures of him so that we could look back at this and laugh later on. But he was not too keen about me taking pictures. Anyway, but the point being is that it's when we are most likely to be triggered. I actually lost a friend and a client to ALS yesterday, and I'm pretty good at both, consciously choosing my state and those pieces, and for the most part, I've been in a pretty powerful state of gratitude. But there's also been some sadness attached. There's also been some relief attached. I know his battle was epically challenging and difficult, not just for him, but for his family. So what we're really talking about is this way of, number one, acknowledging and telling ourselves the truth that the external event does not control who and how we're going to be. And then the next step is practicing, choosing, and causing the states that we want in times where it may not be so obvious. So that's really the umbrella to this big idea. And there's just one other point that I should actually share before you and I sort of chat about this, is that sometimes when I'm having this conversation, people say to me, it's like, well, wait a second, that just sounds like being personally accountable. It's like, I'm just going to be accountable for my way of being, and that's what that is. And this would be the distinction and the discernment between personal accountability and source and cause. is that almost always personal accountability is something that we do in the past tense. What that means is that we have the experience, and something occurs, and we have a reaction. And it could be seconds, it could be minutes, it could be days, it could be years, it could be, whatever the case may be. But then we look back at it and go, well, wait a second. I'm not really too keen on how I handle that. I'm not really too keen on the experience that it triggers within me. I'm going to reframe that. I'm going to look at it differently. I'm going to acknowledge my role in it, and I'm going to cause a shift. So, and by the way, good Lord, if our world just mastered that, we would live in a radically different planet, like radically. But it's past tense. Source and cause, this would be the key distinction. Source and cause is that happening present tense. It is in the midst of somebody just walking up the, I'm thinking of my dear boy Wyatt walking up the stairs dressed to the nines with his hockey bag packed, and there's that instant of, oh, come on, we're not going through this, and it's like, wait a second, he's got to find his way. He's got to try to define himself. He's got to take that risk. He's got to rebel, and you know what? That's part of his job as a kid, and that's part of my job as an adult. So I might as well create the space for it without adding additional resistance. And boom, that fast. In the present tense, we actually had a meaningful experience. So that's the distinction. Personal accountability is, generally speaking, past tense. Source and cause is present tense. That's the big foundation. Did that take 20 minutes?
We're well on our way here, Jay. We're doing good. We're doing good. So let me bring this idea into a question that some people might have around being present tense, and maybe some clarification around what you have to say about the, feeling the feeling or experiencing the experience consciously. So say we're in the eye of the storm, something terrible happens, we get in a car wreck, or we've just had a huge fight with our spouse, and we're in the middle, we're in the eye of the storm. What is, in terms of being conscious about it, what do you have to say about consciously experiencing the experience and letting the experience be what it is, even if you're because what I think you're saying is it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't feel mad or angry or hurt, right? Am I correct?
Yes, absolutely. Because one of the things, and what I think you're beginning to allude to, is what I will sometimes call a spiritual bypass, which is it's like, oh, well, yes, you worldly creatures, you may have an experience of resistance, but me, I pray, I know I'm God, and therefore I don't go there.
Right. I love that voice, Jay.
To which I usually
becoming of you.
To which I usually respond something like this: well, next time you're having coffee and tea with Jesus, Buddha, and Krishna, please say hello for me, because clearly you have transcended this mere human experience. So it is imperative to let ourselves feel what we feel, because the truth of the matter is that I felt sad about the loss of my friend and client. But we have to be really clear about this, is that I feel sad about that, please hear this, not really about him. I feel sad about that because of me. And what we're talking about here is, at the space of source and cause, we recognize that whatever the external trigger happens to be, just happens to be the external trigger. It doesn't make any less real what I'm feeling. We're just in a different space, recognizing that I have this feeling for a whole variety of reasons. Number one, I had tremendous admiration for him. Number two, I couldn't spend a half hour with him without feeling unbelievably, eminently grateful for my life, and having perspective on, I think I have problems. I gotta, stop wearing my ass as a hat if I think I have problems when breathing is a problem. That's a problem. My kid wanting to move down the street to play with his friend more often, that's not a problem. So it helps put perspective around that. So my sadness, my grief, and my gratitude are from me, for me. Mm-hmm. It's not about him. He just happens to be the trigger. He happens to be the mirror. He happens to be the message in the universe, all of those pieces. I love, honor, and respect him, but I'm also clear about I'm the source of these feelings. He is not.
Yeah, that's a great, really, really great example. That might be, let me pull up our good old friend here, Rick.
Hello, my friend Rick.
Can you clarify your meaning about the essence of source and cause? And maybe that's just what you were talking about.
Well, I think that it is to some degree, and I'll try and say it in another way. It is simply this. It is the recognition and the acknowledgement, heart, mind, and soul, not just intellectually, heart, mind, and soul, that I feel nothing and I experience nothing really as a result of the external world. What somebody says, what somebody does, what somebody doesn't say, what somebody doesn't do. I experience it based upon the feelings that occur within me are based upon the meaning that I give it, the significance that I attach to it, and I actually have control about both of those things. That's really the heart of this, is that it comes through me. So I hope that clarifies it enough, Rick. I mean, this is a deep and sort of esoteric conversation, but I hope that gives us enough to begin to go on, which is simply this. You know, I'll say it another way, actually. You know, people have said, you know, I'm highly, highly empathic, and sometimes, you know, I will feel for other people. And while I believe that there is empathy and all those sorts of things, I think the stronger truth is that people are highly sensitive, and the attachment that they give to those feelings and emotions and all those sorts of things is what triggers their emotion. It is not about the external person. So source and cause is about ownership of our experiences, ownership of our results, and the recognition that I can create any experience at any point in time if I'm so clear and conscious. That's the nutshell.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe we will get through this in 22 minutes. I doubt it.
I haven't started drawing on my little tablet yet.
I know. I want to see your little tablet. I want to see you draw on your tablet. Are you going to be using your tablet to explain to us the practice that we can begin incorporating?
Well, I don't know. I thought I was just going to draw stick figures.
Oh, Jay. Oh, I know. As you're drawing, use that voice. Or just use that very calm, meditative, godlike voice.
Now, I was about to mock my calm, meditative voice, and now it only comes through when it wants to. It appears. Okay, so.
God.
Okay, so I'm going to. Step one of this, and I just want to break this down into really 3 basic steps, and I want to draw something for step number 1, okay? Now, here is one of the ways to think about this in terms of the internal and the external world. Actually.
Don't you have an eraser on that tablet? Alex is like a black cloud.
Yes, that's
cloud.
Okay, just a second. There really ought to be an eraser. Do you see an eraser anywhere? Erase pen. There we go. No, there. Yay.
Okay. Woohoo. Oh wait. I'm going to use my effects and give you like a little, give you like clapping or something. You need some like clapping.
Well, you clap and I'll use my God voice. So
okay.
I have transcended all of those things that might actually trigger me in my life. that may well be my God voice or my pothead voice. One of the two. Okay. So here's what I want to do in a fast. In a moment, you know, I am going to draw stick figures.
Okay. All right, I'll stop. That's enough of those. I'll be serious now.
Okay, so here's the thing. So what causes us to feel as though our life happens to us, and so that we feel that we're not really in control of our state, of our feelings, of our choices, and all those pieces, is a little cycle that we call the resistance cycle. And I'm just going to give this is a brief little summary of much deeper work that we use as a foundation in our transformational program, The Gift. We reference it in almost all of our personal development programs, and it also has a monumental place in our business development. But here's the bottom line, is that an event occurs, and there's basically only two ways to approach the event. And up top here is where we get to source and cause, but most people spend most of their lives down here in what we call resistance. So the event occurs, and we go unconsciously and automatically into resistance. The faster I write, the worse the writing gets, just so you know. So we go into resistance, and just to describe resistance, resistance is this fundamental thought, feeling, reaction. Sometimes it is not even conscious, that basically says, it shouldn't be like this. You know, my dear friend should not have had to die a 7-year painful, god-awful death. He kept all of his faculties, and he lost the use ever so slowly of every limb, every muscle in his body. It shouldn't be like that. Now, here's the thing. We go into resistance based upon, I slipped, based upon a belief. And we're going to call it BS because it stands for belief system, based on a belief, and beliefs are primarily formed in the past. They get embedded into our belief system, and we go about recreating and reprojecting and reliving that belief over and over and over again. So we go into resistance based on belief that is formed in the past. Now, what happens is that thing that is formed in the past, we keep for quick reference, and every single time we trigger resistance and that belief from the past, we actually strengthen it for its likelihood to show up in the future. By the way, I'm just getting used to my new tablet, so if I look like I am a 3-year-old writing, that's basically, it's like a 3-week-old writing with a new tablet. So,
so it looks good. It looks good.
Okay.
We can read it.
You can read it. As long as you can read it, I'm happy. So what happens is that we go into resistance based on belief formed in the past, which then strengthens every single time so that it will happen again in the future. This is the core of recycling patterns in our life. And what happens is we have an automatic reaction. Now, I want to be clear about this. This automatic reaction is usually unconscious. Now, meaning that we see or experience the feeling, but we're not really clear about what is actually happening. Now, we then go into resistance to our own automatic reaction. And this is where this thing gets kinky, but not in the fun way, and it actually costs us an inordinate amount of our lives and our capacity to create. Now, this little cycle, which I'm looking at my drawing and laughing, but this little cycle, I want to just change pen color, is driven by the prime driving sort of requirement and the modus operandi of the belief system, which is this, which is our survival. And if you want to think about the belief system, is that the belief system's job has been to store every single experience we have ever had or seen or witnessed for quick reference to make sure that we keep ourselves safe and that we survive, so that it can see things that might cause us trouble from miles away and say, whoa, 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 we're not doing that again. And how the belief system makes sure that we survive is it plays this game of always having to be right. Because at a very deep and basic level, the belief system has this thought or experience that if I'm not right, our very survival can be in jeopardy. Our very survival. So even the most simple decisions, because it's been a long time since we've been chased by a saber-toothed tiger, but even the most simple decisions often get framed in this crazy, I have to be right piece, and I have to be attached to what my perception is. I have to, these elements. So when it happens that an event occurs that we think shouldn't happen or shouldn't be that way, this unconscious trigger happens. Now, here's the fascinating piece about this. We call this, by the way, actually, let me get this down at the bottom. We call this the spin or the maintenance cycle, sometimes the consumption cycle because it consumes our energy. And the cost is inordinately high. Now, I just want to go through a really brief little example so that this makes some sense. So I'll share with you a trigger. This is one of the pieces for managing my source and cause. I have been given a test by God, Spirit, Universe, Great Aardvark in the sky, however you want to think about it. And here's my test, is that my two boys have significant sibling rivalry. Now, I am pretty exceptional, frankly, at managing my state. But I'll tell you, there has been something that has manifested in the last couple of years of my life that has triggered unconscious resistance from me. And it is this. It is my older son being mean to, beating up on, causing pain to my younger son. So just follow this little cycle. I want each of you to follow your own little cycle, because we're going to step through the other side of it in a moment. So the event is Wyatt's beaten on Jackson in some way, shape, or form. Now, I into immediate resistance based upon a belief that is formed in the past, and the belief sounds something like this, is that our home is a place of sanctuary. Everyone is always safe there. Nothing unkind or mean or diminishing would happen inside of the sanctuary of my family home. I could go on and on and on about that belief, but I think you get the essence of it. Now, that belief was formed in the past in terms of how my home was, and is just my belief about how family's supposed to be. Now, when Wyatt beats on Jackson, I go into resistance based on a belief which is formed in the past, which is home should be sanctuary and safe always. I have an automatic reaction. Any wild guesses what my automatic reaction might be?
Anger.
Oh, ding, 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 ding. So I get pissed off. And it's not, and I want to be really clear about this, it's not in this example, and I'm choosing one that's really difficult for me for an example for the rest of the world here. It is not this comment like, oh, well, it'll be okay, they're just brothers. Look, he's 5 years older, he's strong as an ox, it's not fair, it's not appropriate, it is not going to happen. So anger is my automatic reaction. But this is the part that I want people to follow, is that after I get angry, I also go into resistance, please hear this, to my own automatic reaction. And this is the part where people get lost. So I go into resistance to my anger, because I also have a belief formed in the past that sounds a little bit like this. Hey, I teach this shit for a living. Perhaps I should, but I teach this stuff for a living. I'm pretty good at it. What am I doing having this automatic reaction? Why am I raising my voice at my boys? I love them. This is supposed to be a place of sanctuary. What's going on? So I go into resistance to my own automatic reaction based upon that. Now, my own automatic reaction, the second automatic reaction, is self-recrimination, and I feel bad. Which, by the way, yes, and now I go into resistance to my feeling bad, because it's like, wait a second, I have a job, which is to make certain that all of my family is safe, and if one's behaving inappropriately, I best down or I'll do something, says belief number 3. Now, here's the truth of the matter, and I'm just going to keep shorten this up, is that this cycle goes on in some cases for hours, days, weeks, months, and years.
Can I ask you a question really quick?
Of course you can.
I love this diagram, by the way. And so what I'm seeing as you're saying this is like there can be, for instance, an initial event that causes this cycle, and then you have the auto reaction, and then you get the resistance to the auto reaction number 1, and then you get the resistance to the auto reaction number 2, and then the resistance. Is that correct? Like
that is absolutely correct.
That is. I love that way of explaining it. I love that, because I see that, I can see that in myself, and I do the same work with my clients too. So I love this way of seeing it. Totally makes sense to me.
And what's fascinating, and I think that this will resonate, is that the story we keep telling ourselves is that we are pissed off, angry, and frustrated and triggered by the event, which is actually not true. Because by the time it's gone through once or twice, we are no longer actually in reaction to the event. We're in reaction to, yes, we're in reaction to our own unconscious automatic reactions. And when we try to then, go through this process to fix it, if we don't focus here, this pattern exists and remains forever. Forever. Which is why we've got to get clear about this, is that even these unconscious automatic reactions aren't happening from the outside, they are happening from the inside. So, oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Because you're probably going to answer what I was going to ask, so just keep going.
Okay, I'll go fast then. So the question that I think is important for people to answer, or at least to seriously consider, is, how do I know if I'm spending time in my life in resistance? Well, the simple answer to that is you're breathing. This is part of the human experience, full stop. But there are some other ways, which is this. If you spend time in your life being at effect, what that means is there are events in your life that control you. So, for example, if every time you get behind the wheel, you're cursing, waving to people with the single finger saying hello, that would be an example of the event is controlling you. If, for example, every single time you come home from work and you've left your home in a particular, clean manner, and walk through the door and somehow Hurricane Helga has hit just the inside of your house and you're suddenly pissed off, angry, barking, frustrated, all those pieces, those are examples of being at effect. The next piece of this is how you also know you're spending time in resistance is when you are unconscious or on autopilot. We'll just put autopilot for the example. Now, autopilot simply means this. Research says that we as human beings spend about 70% of our daily lives in habit. And what that means is that we're not really, it helps because it helps filter out all of the stuff that comes our way, but the truth is we miss out on an inordinate amount of our lives. So you will know that you're spending a significant amount of time in resistance when these kinds of thoughts or experiences happen. You finish a day at work and you drive home and you pull into the driveway, but you have no recollection of the drive home. You will also know that you're spending a lot of time in resistance when you're driving to work and it's like, oh man, did I turn the iron off? Did I let the dog out? Did I let the dog back in? Do I have a dog? Like if you're not present.
I have a dog. Wait, I have a cat, not a dog. Woo! That's good. I didn't have to let the dog out because I have a cat.
But people honestly are so unpresent because of these patterns that they're not there. It happens. So here's what occurs, and this is the part that I want people to pay attention to because it's really important for our key topic. And we don't have much fun in our life in this state. We know that there's a problem. So what we do as human beings is we try to change it. Now when I say it, what am I referring to?
The feeling, the resistance. You try to change how you're feeling.
I wish that was true.
Sure.
Well, actually, let's say how. Let's say how. My writing is getting horrible here, but we try to change. So how do we try to change the feeling?
Well, I'll just say people want to change the external.
Yes.
Something outside of them instead of something inside of them. The event piece.
Yes, exactly. Because if people if people drove half decent, I wouldn't be grumpy on the freeway. If the people I shared my space with actually took care of the house, then I wouldn't be so grumpy and owly. If my boss wasn't such a jerk, if my staff was doing their job, if only the event was different, I would be happy. And we put all of the energy up here trying to change the event, which never, ever, 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 ever works. And then we have all of the reasons why our life kind of sucks and is not the way we want it to be. And it has nothing to do with us. It has to do with the events, the people, the places, the circumstances, and the situations. So here's the thing, how we must break this cycle. And please understand, if you want to have a meaningful life, you must. Is that we've got to stop trying to change the event and start doing exactly what you just said, Lisa, which is start putting ourselves in the perspective, wait a second, how can these automatic reactions provide us insight into our beliefs that or may not be working so that we can actually put influence to what really does make the change, which is shifting our beliefs and ourselves, because the events are always going to be there and we do not want to live our lives at the whim of external events. That is the reason why most of our world is broke, tired, miserable, and chasing their tails at the mall.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm going to pull up Kim has a comment here. The best way to give expectations, the heave-ho, and I think I pulled this one up because it goes right along with what I'm seeing you writing here. Expectations, again, it's not focusing on the event. So I wonder if you can just continue with what you're saying with her question in mind, giving where expectations fit into all of this.
Perfect. So, I guess the first piece, Kim, and I love the question, if I think I can probably stop sharing my screen, or do you think we should leave that up for them?
You can stop sharing it.
Okay.
We have it all recorded, so you guys can go back and look back at Jay's map. Wonderful mapping process there.
And there are far better versions of written in books of mine and materials online and all that stuff. But the essence of the expectation would be this, is I would ask you, Kim, to, instead of focusing upon the expectation, I would ask you to start asking this question: what belief sponsors this expectation? What belief sponsors this expectation? And is that belief sound? Does that actually serve and support me? Or does that belief, frankly, set me, my family, up for unmet expectations so that I get to be right about, I don't get my needs met, people don't share their space properly, I'm not well respected, my kids don't listen, like all the stories that we make up about it. The beautiful part about this, what we call the resistance or the consumption cycle, is that it is one of the most powerful ways to discover our unconscious beliefs, because we never have one of these automatic reactions that isn't given energy and birth to by a belief. So we can use this to reverse engineer what beliefs are operating. Do they work? Do they not work? How does this actually happen? And I'll just say one last part about expectations, is that expectations are often pre-planned victimization.
Yeah, because they always set you up for disappointment. Expectations always set you up for disappointment. So what was that little thing you just said? They're always subconscious, pre-planned.
Expectations are pre-planned victimization.
Pre-planned victimization. I like that. And would you say they're subconscious, right? Or not always?
Not always, but often. Not always, but often. So the whole, I'm just going to get a little more comfortable here now that I'm not writing. The beliefs are generally, excuse me, here's the distinction, is that the expectation is almost always conscious. The belief that drives the expectation is usually unconscious, right. Which is why I was saying to her, ask the question, what belief would have to be underneath this? So the expectations are usually very, very conscious. Now, my husband's supposed to be bringing me flowers 3 times a week. My wife is supposed to keep the house clean. My children are supposed to listen to me the very first time. We all have these sets of expectations that are generally pre-planned victimizations. But the power in them is figuring out what is the underlying belief and what needs to shift about that. Now, does that give you enough to go on?
Yeah, I think so. And so I guess what I would say then from this piece is to, when you find yourself in reaction, tell me if I'm sort of on track with what you're saying. When you find yourself in reaction and you're aware, okay, I'm in reaction right here, you then can ask yourself the question, well, what is the belief that I have, or what even if you don't know what the belief is, what thought must I be thinking that's causing me to react this way? Having some type of inquiry to get to whatever it is that belief is. Is that, you got I see the okay sign. Yeah, the good sign. Okay. So it's simply just asking yourself that question. What must I be thinking that's causing me to feel this way? Because thoughts and always precede feelings.
Precisely. So we're totally on the same page, and that is the tool that helps us to recognize what's going on. Now I'm gonna also go and I wonder if I got space on my little scribble here. Is that there are 3 words that I want people to actually practice, and the 3 words is this: is every single time you find yourself in resistance, when this little cycle is going along, ever happens, there are 3 words. This is the moment that you were just describing a second ago, which is I find myself there. But sometimes, when and this is one of those pieces that's kind of fun and entertaining, because it's on that note of feeling our feelings. Because sometimes, just going, when I'm in the midst of being angry, it's like, how dare you hurt him? He was just playing. He wasn't even anywhere near you, and you just went up to him and you whacked him. Like there's this thing inside of me where I'm just genuinely, the core of my beliefs about family and home and safety have just been affronted. I'm pissed off. I'm not in a spot to go, oh, well, let me calm down and access my God voice and say, what belief must be operating here? Like that.
Right.
That's not always the easiest thing to do. So there are 3 words, and I practice these 3 words personally. I ask each of you to consider them as well. So the first thing to do when it happens is this, is to stop. So do your damnedest to stop the automatic reaction, which, by the way, that's sometimes that I need to give myself some space. It's like, look, You get away from him. Sit on the step. I'm going to go downstairs and I'm going to actually get myself back to being a human being again. So I'm just stop. So stop the automatic reaction, do whatever is necessary. And sometimes that means physical getting away. Sometimes it means verbal expression. Sometimes that means listening to music. Sometimes it means doing your affirmations. I don't give a hoot what it is, but that is the first step, is that we must stop the spin. So long as the spin is going on, we have no power. The event controls us and our self-punishment controls us. So we've got to stop. Then the next is we look. And what I mean by look is this. I want you to look at what is really going on, not the story your belief system is making up about it, not the past that is being dredged up and projected into the future, but what is really going on. Because the event is never exactly the same as what our belief system is warning us about. You cannot step into the same river twice. It is always moving. It is always different. You as a human being are even different. So stop and look. What is really happening? And then the final word is this: choose. And what we want to choose, and this is where we go back to source and cause, this is why we were going through this entire process, is choose, how do I want to be in this situation and circumstance? So this is my state. How do I want to be in this situation and circumstance? So whenever we find ourselves in this cycle, the three words are stop. Stop all of the automatic reaction. Stop dragging the past into the future. Look at what is really going on right here, right now, this place, and make a conscious choice about who and how I want to be. So this is the assignment, and this is the practice that I want you to play with here, my friends, which is this. We all of us, as human beings, every single one of us, have resistance going on in our lives. We have automatic reactions that are biting us in the butt. And this unbelievably simple pattern interrupt, because that's what the stop, look, choose is, this unbelievably simple pattern interrupt of stop, look, choose, with the focus on who do I want to be, becomes the way for us to stop the unconscious automatic reactions and claim this space of I am the source and the cause of my experience. If my oldest wants to be mean to the youngest and thinks that he's going to get something out of it, who I want to be is a kind and loving parent with firm boundaries who role models respect and love. And me having a little conniption fit over here isn't going to help that. So I want to focus on my state. That is the source. That is what allowed me when he was moving out, because I don't even know what he was mad about, actually. That's how little I have attached to it. When he was moving out, it allowed me to be in the space of, you know what, hon? I love you. I'd miss you. You're going to have a little trouble just moving in with another family because it costs a little bit of money, but you know, you got to do what you got to do. That's how that went. So that is the step in the process. Does that make sense, Lisa?
Yeah, absolutely. And what I love about that process is you end with choice, and choice always puts us back into a place where we feel like we're in control. Like reaction comes from I'm out of control. Like there's also that underlying of I don't have any control over this. So when you go through that 3-step process, which you'll have to look, Jay, after this. There's some comments from Kim and Rick, but I think you've answered their comments, so I'm not going to pull them up, because this is really something that you can do quickly in a short amount of time to regain control, regain perspective, and like you said, it's a pattern interrupt. So love it. Totally cool.
And it could just add something to the pattern interrupt. Mm-hmm. That sometimes it's darn difficult to do with ourselves. And here would be just one additional little hint to this, is that if we're having difficulty stopping the cycle, here would be a baby step towards it, which would be this, is just acknowledge your resistance to another human being. So one of the things, my dear wife and I, you know, coming up in August, you know, we're a couple months away from being together for 30 years, is that one of the things that we really support one another well with is if either of us is activated, is just be able to say, you know what, I'm pissed off about this, I'm grumpy about this, I'm really frustrated about this, and this is what's going on. And generally speaking, in a matter of 2 sentences of just telling the truth about what's going on, I can get to, okay, so stop that waste of my energy, and let's get clear about who and how I want to be again. And that little bridge often helps a ton, particularly at the beginning of starting this practice.
Yeah, I love it. That's great. Really, really good. So I know we did, you know, 40 4 minutes instead of 22 minutes, it's okay. But I do want to make sure that people know where they can find you and find out more about this. It's just at Fiset. I'll let you go ahead and or where would you like them to go?
We do an inordinate amount of work, but if you want to follow us and keep track of us, certainly go to Facebook/creators, CREATORS code is an easy way to keep track of what we're doing. This month we have a whole bunch of programs coming up, one of which is Insight to Leadership, which gets to the core drivers for us as human beings. And if any of you are coaches or trainers or parents that you want to really understand what drives people, we've got a weekend program in Calgary coming up that is, I think, one of the most significant processing frameworks and coaching tools available, full stop. You can also, we're doing a gift in Toronto. So there's just a whole bunch of ways to find out about us. But Facebook, Creators Code. You can follow me on my blog, which is jfiset.com, which is in my little sidebar there, or bottom third, I mean. There's a 12-week e-course available to you. There's a whole variety of ways in which you can interact, and we would love to be of service. And I just really love and appreciate having these conversations with you, Lisa. They're always fun, and I never know where the hell time goes.
I know. And you know what's cool about it, for those of you who are viewing, is Jay is on. He's my one featured guest, so I bring him on every month. And every month we talk about one of these pillars of the Creator's Code. So what's really cool, if you missed any, if this is your first one that you've come to, there's 5 others that you can view from January through May. So every month, just go back and check them because they're always really, really informative. Jay is brilliant. He's been doing this stuff for, 25 years? Or how long have you had your company?
25 years.
Long time. Yeah.
25 years.
He's been doing it a little while. He knows what he's talking about, as you can tell, and he's a great artist. We just found out today with a little tablet. Love that. But if
I'm drawing stick fingers.
Yeah. If you do have any questions, any further questions, we're really happy to continue this discussion. Just leave your comments below this video, and we'll get back to you. We get notified that you've left a message, a comment. So we want to continue this discussion and meet us back again next month. Jay always comes on. He's always my first show. He's always on the first show of the month, just to get that in your brain for the next 6 coming up. And thank you so much, Jay, for being here today. It was wonderful to have you and to get your artwork. There we go.
I did a self-portrait.
Oh, yeah. I like it.
I've lost a little weight, but
you need to eat a little there. Oh, wait, hold on. That was funny. I'm going to do a laughter one. I need a moderator here that can do the sounds on cue, like right away. Anyhow, wonderful to have you here, Jay, and thanks so much everybody else for showing up, for interacting, asking your questions, and we're going to wrap up this episode. It is my belief, as I always end this show and say the same thing, it is my belief that each one of us is absolutely capable of creating radical transformation in ourselves and in our lives, of having those quantum leaps, those quantum breakthroughs. It's just that we don't always have the tools and resources to do that, and that's really what this show is all about, is to give you those tools and resources. And I think you would agree with me. Well, I'm just guessing. I can't think what you're thinking, but Jay always gives awesome tools and resources. So hopefully you go away with the stop, listen, wait, stop, look. Okay, say it again, Jay. The three words.
Yeah, it's kind of like the old nuclear stop, drop, and roll.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Stop, drop, and roll, but I didn't want to say that.
No, stop, and I'll put it all together for the meaning, which is stop, the automatic reaction and dragging the past into the present. Look at what is really going on right here, right now in the present, and then consciously choose who and how I want to be in this circumstance and situation. So
Excellent.
Stop, look, choose.
Excellent. So you can all go and use that right away in your lives. I know that it will make a huge difference for you. And once again, just as a little reminder, if you want to download that free report that I have on how to create radical breakthroughs in your life, you just go ahead and visit www.innerstatecoaching.com. You can find out more about me and my programs and services as well over there. Thanks, everybody, for showing up today, and we'll see you all next week.